Yuck! Smell it again! That's disgusting!
That's my ass!
Who's driving? It's over 9. What? Trap car!
Additional.
Use the boots to get it!
No, no, no!
Huh? What the f?
Hello again, everyone. This is Bionic Slime. I'm your online voice for reviews of your choice, and this is BS Reviews. Today, we take a look at a remake off of a 1973 film from the master of zombies himself, George A. Romero, with a remake of one of his oldest and less forgotten films, The Crazies. The Crazies is brought to you by Overture Films. It was directed by Breck Eisner, whose most famous work has been the movie Sahara. It was written by Scott Kosar and Ray Wright, based on an original screenplay by George A. Romero. It stars Timothy Olyphant as David Dutton, Radha Mitchell as Judy Dutton, Joe Anderson as Russell Clank, and Danielle Panabaker as Becca Darling. The plot of The Crazies. Crazies takes place in a small little Iowa town known as Ogden Marsh. It's a pretty normal, average town where nothing really big or important or dangerous really happens. That changes when David Dutton, a local sheriff, has to gun down a man who just seemingly walks out onto a baseball field while the team is playing with a loaded shotgun. After being forced to kill the man, the sheriff soon finds out, along with his wife, the local doctor, Judy Dutton, that there's a virus that has been leaked into the town's water supply that is turning people completely insane and forcing them, for absolutely no reason, with no indication or signs really, of why people are turning against each other and killing each other. Now David Dutton, his wife Judy, his deputy Russell Clank, and his wife's assistant at the hospital, Becca Darling, must try and escape the town before not only are they possibly killed by their crazed former neighbors, but by the military, who plans to lock down the entire town for fear of a leak of contamination throughout the rest of the world. So now they must try and survive the virus, as well as the people who are trying to exterminate the virus. Review the plot. I actually had no idea this movie really existed. As I said, this is one of Romero's lesser-known films outside of the zombie films. This sounds a little bit more like 28 Days Later or something like that. There have been many films where people have been portrayed as going nuts and just killing people for absolutely no reason. Probably one of the better films that I've seen that has done this is a film called The Signal. It was a very, very overlooked film that involved a TV signal that caused people to go nuts. Here we go with the typical virus setup. And again, we set it all in a little small town. What's actually really weird about this film is that instead of taking time to set up the characters, the development, and just develop these people and their inhabitants of the town, we rush straight into virus hell. I mean, the craziness starts pretty much the minute the movie begins. It starts almost immediately, and it never really stops. So once this movie gets going, it goes constantly, and it goes from the very beginning. It's very fast, very quick, and it never for once lets you rest or make you feel that something isn't going to jump out or jab you with a pitchfork or something. It's a very creepy and, in a sense, realistic portrayal of what would probably happen. It's much more realistic. I mean, if you woke up in this town, you would really see this happening. And thankfully, it avoided the zombie cliches of saying if you get bit, you become infected, and by having the people not be totally aware of whether or not they are crazy or not, or they're going to become crazy, you can increase the paranoia levels and make it a little more difficult to determine who's going to go nuts or who isn't, and it definitely makes it more creepy. A review of the characters. Timothy Olyphant I actually mistook for Bill Paxton when I first saw the trailer. I mean, with the hair and the beard and even his voice, I swear to God, he looked and sounded like Bill Paxton. And it was just kind of funny because I was like, I'm still thinking that's Bill Paxton. No, wait, that's Timothy Olyphant. And it was just weird for me, but that wasn't much. He was probably the strongest character here. I mean, he was a very simple, honest sheriff, and he pretty much shows it in his, his acting skills. By showing he's a very simplistic character, you could relate to being this guy who's just an ordinary sheriff in a town where nothing really bad happens, and all of a sudden everyone's trying to kill each other. Radha Mitchell was okay as the wife. I wasn't really particularly impressed with her, or for anyone else for that matter. Like I said, I felt Timothy Olyphant was the best here. Everyone else really just did average performances. Danielle Panabaker actually has done better work than this. I mean, she was in Sky High in the remake of Friday the 13th. Here she's barely in this frickin' film, and she's kind of billed high up on the cast, even though she's very vaguely in this film. There's not really much to her character. Hell, I can't even tell you what her character's about. Joe Anderson is the deputy Russell Clank. He was the one person you actually saw quite a bit of. Unfortunately, he really didn't get that much better until the very, very end of the film. He played very typical, cliche, uninteresting, uninspiring. That's actually pretty much everyone in this movie. It wasn't until the very end that Radha Mitchell and Joe Anderson, some of the actors actually got much, much better. But for the most of the movie, it's all pretty much standard cliche stuff. For a movie that's supposed to be about people going nuts and making creepy facial expressions, to scare you, this one kind of did very poorly. I mean, the people who go nuts do a good job, but for the people we're watching, it's kind of hard to care what happens to them because they really, like I said, don't take too much time into this film to develop these characters. There's almost no character development or characterization at all. And like I said, it did work for the realistic aspect, for the character aspect. It kind of blew it on that one. Review the music and the cinematography. This is the two areas I think the movie particularly excels at. The scenes that are shot with the lights and the camera angles and just the shadowy portrayals of these people coming in just looking totally transfixed and transparent, stabbing, killing without any mercy or reaction or emotional response. It looks really good. I think this movie really excels that the idea is more horrifying than the movie itself. Just seeing these events, these incidents, are projecting the horror in you more so than any jump scares. And there are a few in here, as well as some really awkward humor moments. Why they put them in there, I don't know. Maybe to ease tension, but for me, it just kind of distracted. But like I said, it looks fantastic. The music was very good. Very chilling, very sad, somber, deep. It definitely kept the movie on edge, very serious, very dark and down, which is why I said the humor seems kind of out of place there. This movie really gives a good, visual sense of the alienation of this town and what happened when the military comes. They have some really great close-up shots, like this one scene where the wife is under a table and she's about to be put under, and she's just screaming, looking at these gas-masked men. It looks really good. Flaws about the film. There's actually a lot. As I said, the movie moves way too fast. There's almost no character development whatsoever. But some of the other bigger things that bother me, for a horror movie, I'm sorry to say, this really let me down in the gore department. I wasn't expecting a total bloodbath, but I expected a little bit more gore in here. I mean, it almost felt like you could have watered this down to a PG-13 with the way that they portrayed the violence and even the swearing. It wasn't used that effectively. I mean, there was a couple scenes where it was kind of good, but it really wasn't that impressive. But the biggest problem is that the military factor in this film kind of destroys the whole aspect of the film, and that's what really pisses me off. If you've seen 28 Weeks Later, if you've seen Quarantine, or if you've seen The Blob, or if you've seen Phantoms, if you've seen any film where you have the whole contamination aspect in the film, once it comes in, it pretty much sells itself. If you've seen Alien vs. Predator Requiem, then you know where the whole movie's going to go, and that's the biggest problem. This movie makes the military seem more scary and terrifying than the actual crazy people are, and that pisses me off because you're wanting to see these people going nuts and killing people, and you barely even see that many. It's focused more on what the military does. And forgive me for sounding like I'm seeing way too many movies and sit on a high horse, but after the fourth or fifth film you see the military shoot innocent people for fear of not getting infected, you kind of know they're going to do that, so it kind of loses its horror dramatic aspect. It's like, oh my god, they shot the people. Yeah, I've seen that like 4 or 5 times before, so try something else to scare me. Because I got to tell you, this movie did not. It didn't shock me, didn't really floor me. There's nothing here new. There's nothing here that's impressive. It's a slightly better remake than some of the other ones, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre one. But that isn't saying much in comparison to this film. Final wrap-up. The Crazies had a really good aspect. I like how they used a more deeper tension and fact of the problem to be more scary. And Timothy Olyphant was very good, but overall, this movie just really had a lackluster in terms of everything. They really blew it on the gore factor. The military aspect suffocates the movie to the point where it's not even about the crazies. They should just call it the military or something. It really takes away from what I wanted to see from the film. I was severely disappointed with the acting. Cinematography and good music are not enough to save the fact that this movie just was not that special. It's lackluster. The only thing that this movie did that was really good was this one car washing scene. It was really cool, really intense, and freaky, but sadly that was pretty much the best part of the entire film. This slightly better remake of Romero's film just doesn't strike any memorable chords with me. I would say rent it, because in all honesty, There's a lot better films out here than this, and ones that are not as cliched filled as this. Because once the military comes in with the whole containment issue, you pretty much know how the movie's going to end, and that is a terrible way to do a movie. Bottom line, I give the Crazies 2 stars and a half out of 5. Well, that's all for now. This has been Bionic Slime for BS Reviews. Thank you all for listening, and goodbye for now.